technology that is built for your every sense. Acer Pure from Acer.
With that, we're shifting our attention now. The Washington, D.C. edition of the Pursuit for Peace began on a positive note. So let's talk about what happened in the United States and what's expected next. The dialogue between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in Alaska was the first step that marked a significant shift in tone compared to the tense meeting in February which took place with Zelensky. Now, Trump not only welcomed Volodymyr Zelenskyy but also expressed that it was an honor to have Zelenskyy at the White House. Now, Trump stated that there is a reasonable chance of ending the war and promised to provide security guarantees as part of a peace agreement to resolve the conflict. Now, this meeting was watched world over on what could happen next. Will there be a peace deal? Will there be an end to the war? President Trump claimed that the world is tired of the war and that both Putin and Zelenskyy want to see it come to an end. Before stating that he had previously ended 6 wars, Trump emphasized that this time he seeks a lasting peace rather than just a ceasefire.
President Zelenskyy, you say in the Post on X today, Russia must end this war, which it itself started. President Trump, you say President Zelenskyy of Ukraine can end the war with Russia almost immediately if he wants to. Which is it?
No, I think that's true. I think we're going to have a meeting. I think if everything works out well today, we'll have a trilat. And I think there will be a reasonable chance of ending the war when we do that.
And is this the end of the road for American support for Ukraine? Is today's meeting deal or no deal?
I can never say that. It's never the end of the road. People are being killed and we want to stop that. So I would not say it's the end of the road. No, I think we have a good chance of doing it. And I know the president, I know myself, and I believe Vladimir Putin wants to see it ended.
Talked about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you roll that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe, but we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
Now, in a dramatic diplomatic push, the U.S. President Donald Trump also said he hosted the Ukrainian President, the French President, the U.K. Prime Minister, the German Chancellor, and other top EU leaders at the White House, and he went on to call it a historic talk. In fact, Trump said the discussions centered on security guarantees for Ukraine, coordinated between Europe and the United States. Now, after this meeting, Trump also spoke with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and this is extremely significant. That call is said to have lasted about 40 minutes, wanting a peace resolution. So there are preparations on a possible Putin-Zelenskyy meeting that could be followed then by a trilateral meeting involving all the 3 leaders. Trump called it a very good and early step towards peace, with the Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff leading the coordination efforts. In fact, Trump also took to social media. So on Truth Social, here's what he went on to say. He called it a very, very good meeting. Now remember, this is important because we all remember what happened in February when there was a complete meltdown in the Oval Office. This time, Zelenskyy was flanked with all the EU leaders, and Donald Trump went on to mention, I had a very good meeting with the distinguished guest, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy of Ukraine, and then he goes on to mention all the leaders who were present there, the French President, the President of Finland, the UK Prime Minister, mentioning all of them, and also the Secretary General of NATO, saying that it ended in a further meeting in the Oval Office. And during this meeting, we discussed the security guarantees for Ukraine, which guarantees would be provided by the various European countries with a coordination with the United States of America. Everyone is very happy about the possibility of peace. So he has gone on to mention that there is a possibility, big possibility of peace there for Russia and Ukraine. At the conclusion of the meetings, I called President Putin and began the arrangements for a meeting at a location to be determined between President Putin and President Zelenskyy. So this is a very significant first step if it actually does materialize. A meeting between Zelenskyy and Putin that is likely, after which there will be a trilateral meeting with Trump also in attendance. We in fact have more breaking updates now coming in. We have a confirmation coming in from Russia on the talks that have taken place between the US President Donald Trump and the Russian President Vladimir Putin. A confirmation coming in that President Putin and Trump have spoken for 40 minutes after the high-level meetings in Washington. So it has been described, of course, as an important day of diplomacy, stressing that the focus is on securing lasting peace, not just a temporary ceasefire. So it's been very, very clear from Ukraine, from the United Kingdom and the other countries that had gathered with Zelensky. So Ukraine has been very clear about that it should be lasting peace. It's the same with Putin as well. Very, very clear about what he wants. The question is, will there be a deal or not? In fact, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who was flanked by the European leaders this time, said that he is open to meeting with Trump and Putin to bring the war to an end. He also asserted that Ukraine needs the United States and Europe's aid to end the war.
We live under each day attacks. You know that today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need support American and European partners. And I think we show that we are strong people, and we supported the idea of the United States, of personally of President Trump, to stop this war, to make a diplomatic way of finishing this war, and we are ready for trilateral, as President said.
Now, the mention of the entire meeting would be really incomplete without talking about the attire of Zelensky. Remember, last time there was a lot of talk around Zelensky not wearing a suit with President Trump, and in fact, some from the press also commenting on that. This time around, Zelensky was seen wearing a jacket, and he was also complimented. In fact, President Trump went on to say that he looked fabulous. Take a look at what happened.
President Zelensky, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good on you.
That's the one that attacked you last time. See, now I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelensky.
In the same suit. I changed.
We have breaking updates now coming in. Zelensky has thanked Trump repeatedly. Now, during the last meeting, remember, the vice president had spoken about not thanking the U.S. enough. He had mentioned and asked Zelensky if he thanked the United States. Now, Zelensky has said thank you or thanks 8 times in the first minute of his meeting with Trump.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. If I can, first of all, thank you for invitation, and thank you very much for your efforts, personal efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you, and using this opportunity, many thanks to your wife, First Lady of the United States. She sent a letter to Putin about our children, adopted children, and my wife, First Lady of Ukraine. She gave the letter. It's not to your wife.
I want it.
Yeah. So we are saying this is a sensitive topic. Yeah, please. And thanks to our partners and that you supported this format. After our meeting, we can have leaders who are around us, UK and France, Germany, Italy, Finland, EU, NATO. I mean, all partners around Ukraine supporting us. Thanks to them, and thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you very much for being here.
Senior consulting editor Srinjoy Chaudhary joins us on the broadcast for an understanding of what this means. Srinjoy, of course, a step closer towards peace. That's what the early indicators are. But a quick mention also of the dynamic that you witnessed this time. Zelensky also, of course, going on to thank the United States profusely. He was also seen wearing a jacket after a lot of conversation around what happened the previous time. Flanked with the EU leaders, there was also some camaraderie that was seen between the two leaders.
As President Trump himself has said, a deal is not done until it is done. And that's a very important point to note, because at this point, we don't have a ceasefire. We don't know how the peace plan will unfold. Yes, there are 2 or 3 things that have to be looked at. The first, of course, is what happens to the areas that the Russians are now occupy. the Crimea since 2014, and also the Donetsk and Luhansk areas that Russia says is Russian. Ukraine also says it's Ukraine. They've been fighting for 3 years and sustained 1 million+ casualties because most of the fighting has been in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Now that has to be kept in mind. Security guarantees. What kind of security guarantees will be given? How will this unfold? Is this going to be another Korea? Is there going to be a DMZ? Will there be European soldiers in Ukraine on the DMZ, if there is one? Will there be American troops there? All this has to be worked out. So perhaps there will be a trilateral. We don't know when it will be. We don't know where it will be. Where it will be is actually very significant. Similar meetings have been held in Camp David in the United States. If another one takes place here, very good. Otherwise, it could be in the Gulf, it could be in different places. The point is, if there is one, if there is agreement, and there will be peace. But as I mentioned, there are a lot of ifs here, and we'll have to wait to see how these ifs are sorted out.
Okay, all right. So in the coming days or coming weeks, we will have the answer from that. For that, to stay with us, we have more breaking updates now coming in. The External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will be visiting Russia. Big breaking updates coming in. The External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is set to visit Russia. He will depart for Russia today. India and Russia looking to boost trade ties. He will also be addressing the business forum. And a meeting is also scheduled with the Foreign Minister. My colleague Rishabh is joining us on the broadcast with the details. Rishabh, this visit of S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, is extremely significant. This comes at a time when there are trade wars ongoing, and India has also been very steadfast in its relationship with Russia. Take us through the significance of Jaishankar's visit and what's expected.
Well, definitely, this is a very, very significant visit, and this comes at a time when Russia and Ukraine are the focal point globally. Everyone is talking about the Russia-Ukraine crisis, and midway is being, looked for by Europe as well as the United States. Putin and Prime Minister Modi has spoken at length at least 2 times in last 1 week, and Putin has also met President Trump. So External Affairs Minister's visit there and meeting Sergei Lavrov will give India a clear picture of what happened, what transpired in Alaska, and how Russia looks at what's happening in Washington. So that is something. Apart from that, India has been accused of, in a way, funding the Russian war in Ukraine. That is something that will take India-Russia relationship forward. India is very clear that this is in our national interest, and we will continue doing that. So how things would be, it is basically India-Russia intergovernmental consultation on trade, economy, and scientific temperament, and that's the reason that External Affairs Minister is going. And also this comes just months ahead when we are expecting Putin to be in India sometime later this year.
Okay, all right, Rishabh, thank you for joining us with those details.